When couples first meet, they develop all these feel-good hormones, and that leads to eventually falling in love. But then sometime after marriage, usually about 18 months to 24 months, that love feeling seems to wear off or disappear. The world says, oh, you're not in love anymore. Just find someone else that you can fall in love with. And for every marriage, this can be a huge disappointment. So we're going to talk all about that today.
Yeah. Why does this happen in relationships? During what we would call the infatuation phase, what you call the in love, the infatuation phase, the brain essentially filters out the partner's flaws. Like it's hard for me to see the flaws in you whenever I am making you so good in my mind from all these feel-good chemicals that I have going on for me.
Yeah, I think God designed those chemicals to attract us more in the initial stages of falling in love. They're needed.
Yeah. So let's talk about what it looks like in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some easy to grasp examples of what infatuation versus true love looks like. Another way of saying it is what the world says versus what God says.
That's right.
Because we've told this a lot to couples whenever they are like, I thought he loved me. I thought she loved me. And I will introduce, maybe they did love you with the love that they knew how to love you with. And maybe they never had love to begin with. Maybe they never knew what love is.
Mm-hmm. But most people have experienced infatuation.
That's right.
Or feeling really good about someone else in the beginning of a relationship. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just look at that. So the first thing I want to talk about is there's a difference in pace and development in the relationship. So the infatuation stage, the relationship moves fast.
Fast and intense.
There are intense feelings that are declared almost immediately.
And they're rushed.
Yes, and decisions are rushed.
I'm thinking of some of the silly Christmas movies we've been watching lately, where a guy and a girl meet, and before the end of the 2 hours is up of the movie, they have already fallen madly in love just after meeting.
And rings are proposed. Like, what is it? And then I leaned to Haven, and I'm like, this is not real. Okay.
What is true love? True love moves slowly and steadily. The feelings will deepen over time. The bond develops organically, and it is based on shared experiences and learning of each other.
That's right. There's also a difference in the primary focus. And I mean, I see all of this. Like, we were infatuated with each other. Oh, yeah. We did not truly love each other when we got married. So we fit into all these categories. But infatuation focuses heavily on the physical and idealized image of the partner, like making you the perfect partner for me. And like you said, the flaws are often completely overlooked or minimized and not even seen.
Until typically the 18 to 24 month mark.
Oh, I remember. I woke up and I was like, who are you? And why did I marry you?
But let's talk about true love. True love focuses on realistic and emotional connection. Actually, you can see the whole person, including their imperfections, and you can share deep emotional understanding and have good conversation about our feelings, about each other, about our emotions.
Yes. Yes. All right, let's talk about the difference in foundation and what drives it. So the infatuation is driven by intense chemistry and need. And the need is for excitement or validation from each other. And that just comes from a high dopamine rush that's coming from the brain.
Center of the brain. True love, though, is based on enduring trust and respect, or another way of saying it is a confidence that we can have in each other and this respect that we can have for each other. There's shared values, deep friendship, and a mutual commitment and covenant with each other.
There's no rush in that.
No.
Let's get to know each other and develop a solid foundation.
That's important.
Yes. I wish we would have done that.
Oh, that's so important.
Okay, so there's also a difference in how conflict is handled. So the infatuation or infatuated couple, they avoid conflict.
That's right.
Arguments are typically avoided or quickly smoothed over to keep the perfect bubble intact.
And true love manages conflict. Disagreements are seen as normal, valuable opportunities for growth, understanding, and even more open communication. That is where intimacy is built. Not that we agree with each other, but we can understand each other.
In our premarital counseling, when we have a couple and they say, "Oh, we haven't argued about anything," we're like, conflict is a good thing.
That's right.
It's how you resolve the conflict that matters. And when we avoid it, so there is no conflict, that's not a healthy thing.
I think that's surprising sometimes when I will tell people that conflict and arguments are normal in marriage because it's two selfish people working out their selfishness and learning each other's opinions and why we have the opinions that we have.
That's right.
And I agree with Joel. It's how we go about that process. That's where the love and healthiness comes in.
That's right.
Of how we engage.
All right, now let's look at the view of self and partner. So the infatuated couple, their viewpoint is often insecure and needy. The focus is on what the partner does for you. Like, do they make me happy? Oh, well, if they make me happy, it must be the one. Most would say that when someone does make them happy, we're meant to be together.
Or they affirm. They affirm them. I'm affirmed by you, but I'm not by other people. Other people call me out on my junk, but you don't.
That's
Maybe
right.
we're in love.
Yeah.
This
we're
is
meant for
to
each
be.
other.
But true love, the viewpoint is security and sacrificial giving. The focus is on mutual support and what you can build together. Like, how can we strengthen our relationship with each other? How can we know each other on a deeper level?
Yes. And here's I think this is the last one that we are going to share, but it's like the crux of it all because there's a difference in the duration of how long these couples can last. Because a couple who's infatuated, it's temporary because the intense chemical state it only lasts 12, 24 months and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that leads someone who's seeking that feeling of love to be out of love with this person and just go to the next.
Well, I mean, I was in love with you. But then you started acting weird. Now I'm not.
You started pricking my thorns.
Obviously, I'm with the wrong person. There's someone else.
There's
plenty of fish in the sea, and I can go fall in love with someone else because they will accept me. We can have a good relationship together because you changed.
You no longer make me happy.
That's right. But true love is enduring. It grows into a calm, deep bond and lasting commitment that can sustain a long-term marriage. That's covenantal love.
It is.
It is sacrificial love. It is, I have the ability to know I am selfish and I know that I don't have what it takes, but God does. And God can fill me with all the abilities that I need to be able to have good conversation with you and build intimacy in our marriage for a lifetime.
I was just like glancing back over because true love, I think also that's how God loves us. Like when we look at what true love really is, like I'm looking back over, God loves us in all these ways. But this infatuation love is such a worldly love. It's a love that Satan entices in our world to make it look and appeal as amazing. Like, don't we all want that? But what I love about true love is it makes me infatuated with you. It's just different. It's not these chemicals. They're different chemicals that are better.
Yeah.
And more bonding. For me, that's been my experience. And I wish everybody could experience that to know what they're missing out on.
I love you talking about God's love. I was just chatting with a husband not too long ago, and he said it really resonated with me when we were on a call with each other, and both spouses were together, and you and I were together, and we were chatting about why he did what he did in infidelity. And I had him consider, and I had the wife consider that your spouse, your husband, just consider he loved you with what love he knew, but consider he does not know what love is.
Mm-hmm. I think most people don't.
Yes. People will love with what they have tools to love with, right? But we love, this is really important. The reason that I can love is because God first loved me. And what do I need to do? I need to receive his free gift of love to me. And then what do I do with that love? I don't keep it. I love outward. What do I do with it? I love God with all my heart, all my soul, and all my strength. I keep his commands wholeheartedly. I love you with that same love. Mm-hmm. That's the love that God gives us that we can give out. Mm-hmm. The worldly love is completely different. That's the infatuation that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that's going to have me going from partner to partner to partner. And I'm so depleted and so rejected.
It's the Hollywood life.
It is.
Mm-hmm, because Hollywood paints it to be such a beautiful picture of love. Like the Christmas movies we watched with our daughter. Like that paints an amazing picture of what love, true love, can be like. And it is so false.
It is.
And misrepresented.
It is.
And so I just want to say that if you are enjoying this conversation that we're having, or enjoy the conversations we have on our channel, we're having a marriage conference that you're going to want to check out. It is February 28th. We'll put the link in the description below so you can register to come meet us in person. We would love to meet some of our YouTube family. So check that out, and we'd love to see you.
We already have a couple from Canada saying that they're going to come.
Oh, yay. That's exciting.
Yeah. So let's break this down into, once again, we have the world's view and we have God's view. Mm-hmm. And so we also have sexual activity versus sexual intimacy.
Ooh, this is one of my favorite topics. This is good.
Because they're different. You know, activity is the world's view. Sexual activity is the world's view. It's about compatibility, frequency, physical attraction, and immediate pleasure. My needs need to be met. Mm-hmm. It's about me.
It's all about me.
That's the world's view, and that is sexual activity. That's easy.
So easy. It's put A into B.
Yeah, that is so easy.
We got that down.
But it will destroy your soul. It will destroy your spirit, because that's not God's design.
That's right. That's right. And I think Joel just said it's not fulfilling. He's right.
Yeah.
And anyone can have sexual activity. Anyone.
Yeah.
Now, sexual intimacy is something that's reserved for marriage.
I like reserved.
And it's special and unique. And here's what it is. Intimacy focuses on, first, God's way, learning to love well, prioritizing intimate connection, experiencing a shared journey together.
A lifetime of a shared journey.
And here's what I love. Our needs are met. Not your needs or my needs. Our needs are met in the process. And that requires a transformed mind and being a student, like we've been talking about. Otherwise, I'm not able to meet your needs and you're not able to meet mine.
Yeah. And in a healthy way, that's Ephesians 5 and 1 Corinthians 7. In a healthy way, that's exactly the way God designed marriage to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this area was very confusing for me, because when betrayal happened in our marriage, you know, the world says the reason your spouse cheats is you weren't having enough sex with them. I heard that a lot, and I still hear it to this day, and it makes me angry, because we were still having sexual activity.
Yeah.
And betrayal still happened. And that is, most couples that we work with, that is a confusion.
That's right.
We were having sex. How did betrayal happen? Because there was no sexual intimacy.
It was missing.
And that's what both of us are seeking to have. And we get confused with this sexual activity part, that we start going after that, thinking that's the goal. And it's not the goal.
No.
It's not even close to what the goal is. And so we were really missing out. And now that we have that, I can see why betrayal happened, because so much was missing from our intimacy as well as sexual intimacy. That wasn't even a thing.
So let's build on this conversation and talk more about the infatuation versus God's view.
Okay, I love it. So the first thing, we've talked about novelty sex in the last episode when we were talking about pornography. Or it was 2 episodes ago. So make sure and check that out. But this is exciting novelty sex. Now here's what it produces in the body. Phenylamine. Thank you.
It's a natural amphetamine and euphoria.
And epinephrine, which is adrenaline. So those are the chemicals that are going off when there's novelty sex or sexual activity. And it fades within 18 to 24 months. Of meeting. Good catch there, Joel. It fades in 18 to 24 months of the relationship starting. So it binds the couple to critical character traits and destructive. I'm having an issue with my words. Destructive behavior patterns.
Will you start the exciting sex?
Yes. Okay, so there's exciting sex, which is novelty, and that is. I still can't.
Phenylamine is a natural amphetamine and euphoria.
And also epinephrine, which is adrenaline. And those chemicals are going off in the body when there's sexual activity and exciting sex happening, which is often outside of marriage. There's risk involved. There's danger involved. And those things fade within 18 to 24 months of the relationship starting. And that's what we've been
talking about this whole episode, is the worldly view are all about the chemicals. They're all about the physical attraction, and all of it fades because none of it is in reality and none of it is God's design.
And it binds the couple to critical character traits and destructive behavioral patterns.
It does.
And that I think is the problem right there, is we're bonded to destructiveness from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Why do we think that in marriage our sex life is going to flourish when we are bonded to destruction?
And it can, but we have to get to truth first.
That's right.
You may start out not in the right way, but you can always turn, because Jesus can cover everything. We have to get God's view and his truth. And let's talk about that. So there's married covenant sex, and this is where there's endorphins. There's natural opiates. It builds long-term relationships. There's a sense of well-being. And the oxytocin, which is a love hormone, it glues the husband and wife together.
And that's supernatural.
Yeah, this is supernatural. And the more that you engage in covenant oneness, the more these compounds increase.
That's why I was saying, like, while that exciting sex, that feeling is nice, it's pleasurable.
Yeah.
This covenant sex,
different
things that are going on in the body, extremely bonding and deep feelings
completely
of
different.
love.
Yes.
Completely different. And that is what brings the exciting sex back into it, is the longer we engage in covenant love, those things build. And it starts to feel very pleasurable and exciting again.
It's fulfilling, connecting, creates even more intimacy in our relationship.
Unity, bonding. Yes.
Yeah. That's the oneness that we're talking about in this whole episode about sex and sexuality and God's design. Is he designed for supernatural oneness to happen within the marriage covenant? And that's where it happens.
And so a lot of times when there's been danger and risk outside of, like, when people are having sex outside of marriage, there's always danger and risk in that.
Yeah.
And then when they enter marriage and that danger and risk is no longer a part of it, it can feel boring and it can feel blah. and not pleasurable. Like something I don't want to engage in because of that. I experienced that. Did you experience that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It's very
I
common.
did. I did.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about this heart of service. What we need to get to is a sacrificial love of each other. And that requires a mindset shift. I cannot think about the way the world or the culture talks about it.
That's right. You can't.
I've got to reframe my mind. Romans 12:2 says, hey, whatever the world says, whatever the culture says, let's forget about that. Let's get God's perspective so that we will know what his will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And that requires a transformed mind, a shifting. And then what that looks like is lovemaking is to serve one another in pleasure. There's a sacrificial love, like earlier I mentioned Ephesians 5. That's what it talks about. When it no longer becomes about me and what I can get and about what I can give, the pleasure is off the charts, kind of great.
Yes. Like, I just have to say this. This might be too much for somebody, but
no.
I have to say this. It never even crossed my mind to offer you sexual pleasure without receiving as well. And that was my selfishness. And I don't think it ever crossed your mind.
No.
So that sacrificial love just wasn't even a thing because it was always about us wanting it for me and what I'm getting out of it. But when a spouse can come to their spouse and say, I just want to bring you pleasure and not expect anything in return, that is incredible sacrifice and a way to love through sexual pleasure that I think most couples don't entertain that. They don't know that that's available or that they could do that. And there's so much that they could explore just in that one little area that would be so sacrificial.
Yeah. I love talking about this. What we've been able to do is give you a good, clear picture that there's a worldview, and that is there is sexual activity that can happen. And it will always leave us depleted. It will never satisfy, never satiate because it's not God's design. And then we talked about there is a design that God created that is meant for the covenant of the marriage. And inside the covenant of the marriage, there is sexual intimacy. And in that is where we build our love and intimacy with each other. We're more connected, and there's a deeper, richer knowing of each other that we have.
So this is the point where we want to invite you into our Experts Corner with Rob Jackson, where he's talking all about God's design for pleasure. So welcome to Experts Corner.
Experts, they mention that the intimacy is a lifestyle of like this constant surrendering. And for couples that are healing from the past hurt, specifically of betrayal, there's the self-protection is like this natural reflex that happens. Yes. And so if you're talking to a spouse right now, how could a spouse begin to let down those walls and really practice surrendering when they're still afraid of being hurt?
That's a complicated question. And so let's try to take it one layer at a time. If we're talking about between husband and wife, one has violated trust, one has broken covenant, there's a betrayal trauma survivor in this connection, then that person, the offender, needs to be increasingly safe. You know, forgiveness and trust are not the same. And so if the offending party is still reactive, maybe he or she is not being sexually unfaithful, maybe they've moved on, they've moved past that, but they're still not fundamentally safe. They're still not present in the relationship. Then I don't know that the wounded party can really expect to relax and surrender and sacrifice very well, because everything's still going to be screaming, not only did you hurt me, but you haven't really owned it, and I don't know that I'm safe now. So that's one layer. The second is when that offending, or rather when the wounded party has come from a very wounded family of origin. And none of our families are perfect. We've already mentioned that. But some have come from families of origin where it was parents who first betrayed their trust, or it was siblings or grandparents or someone else. And so when a family member breaks trust with a child, when a family member is supposed to be the safest, most protective person on the planet, and they break trust with a child, that's going to make for a difficult adulthood. And many times out of family systems, theory, and things of this sort, we leave our family of origin with unfinished business and inadvertently find ourselves in another family that looks quite a lot like it. And some of these things keep happening.
Yeah.
And that's when we really get ourselves into a place of being very discouraged, maybe even cynical, and ready to just give up instead of reflecting on, okay, in this moment, am I just reacting to my spouse and maybe our past, or am I projecting onto my spouse and projecting onto our marriage all that I brought with me from my family of origin? And now we're just in a fog of war. I'm still in the battle from my family of origin. I'm in a battle with you. If that's the case, the offending party is going to have a very hard time making up uh, for that family of origin wound. In fact, I'll say he or she cannot. They can only make up for the wound they created.
That's our story, my story. I mean, I had layer after layer after layer of betrayal that started in my family of origin. And so when the betrayal in our marriage came out, I mean, it was like a tsunami of betrayals because of that,
Yeah.
that I had to heal layer by
I
layer.
see that often.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I see that often. And sometimes I will say to the spouse who's been betrayed, let's go back to your childhood betrayals and remind you these are not your fault. These are not your responsibilities. Huge power gaps. All these things are true. And today, it's still not your fault that your husband or wife was unfaithful. It's not your fault that your husband or wife was cruel in their temperament. But it is your responsibility today to guard your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It is your responsibility to renew your mind and to take your body and steward that well. So your parents, if they didn't know how to guard their hearts, could not have taught you to guard yours. If your parents didn't know how to renew their mind, they weren't going to teach you. But now that you are in your own home, which should be safe, should be equitable, respectful, etc., make sure that you are not looking for someone else to rescue you. Make the choices that will guard your heart, renew your mind, and honor Christ. And if you've got a spouse that is harming you, then sometimes stepping away from that for a season may be all you can do. That's not inferring divorce, but it is inferring when sin goes without repentance, it is supposed to separate. It is supposed to, to call out, we've got a problem here. We're not supposed to be uniting with that kind of sin out of a fellow Christian.
Yeah. So I'm curious, can you speak to the spouse, the betrayed spouse, that their spouse is repentant and they're doing everything they can to create a safety, an emotional safety for them? How can they start to lower their walls? Because I really see that the pain keeps those walls high.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And you
But
both,
let me add to that.
there it is.
Let me add to that the same story, the same question she's asking. But in that person's mind, in their mind, the betrayed, even though the betrayer is repentant, in their mind, it's
fresh.
It is horrible, and to them, they want to separate, even though the spouse is absolutely repentant, absolutely engaged in the relationship, but their mind is saying no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, first thing is I try to get both parties to sit with this and grieve it. No one planned on this happening the day they got married. No one could have imagined or would have ordered this up. And so maybe you're 5 years into your marriage, or maybe you're 40 years into your marriage, and this is your story. what a grievous thing. And if the two of you could sit and grieve that, you could grieve it differently. But if you can at least acknowledge, we really need to give ourselves permission to lean into this, meet it with curiosity, and suffer the grief that's going to be inevitable. Let's start there. Anything else is denial or minimization. But when a betrayed spouse basically has a partner who has found his or her way back, then I think the betrayed spouse needs to be trying to stay focused in the moment. In this moment, am I grounded? In this moment, am I relating to this person? Am I really looking at them in the eye? Am I really hearing them? Am I working to not be distracted? If they say something that doesn't quite ring true, do I ask, could you tell me more about that? Rather than immediately react with the defensiveness and the anger and the fear that would be common. And so trying to help the betrayed partner ground himself or herself in the moment is fundamentally necessary. And usually you hear, well, ground your senses. Look outside.
Mhm.
Listen to the air conditioner clicking on. There's things that you can do with your five senses that are very important. And I want to emphasize that, but I don't want to stop there. I want to say, can you go ahead and renew your mind in this moment? I'm not in my father's house. I'm in our house, my husband I'm in our house. This is not 20 years ago. This is today. That's renewing the mind and reality. And then can you drop them down into your heart and remind yourself, I really do desire this relationship. And the deception is that I may desire to be absolutely guaranteed I'll never hurt again. And that's not going to happen until I'm in heaven.
Right.
Right.
That's going to be a very deceitful desire to think that I could be in a relationship and never be hurt again. So let's just go ahead and surrender that.
Mm. One of the things I hear from the wives that I coach that are betrayed spouses is I do want this relationship and I want to lean
Yeah.
in, and the pain stops me. And I just
Yeah.
recently heard this quote that how can I lean into my spouse and love them the way that it would thrill the heart of God? And taking it
I love
away
that.
from the spouse because they don't deserve it, right? That's what the mind
Yeah.
wants to say is you don't deserve my love or me leaning in because you hurt me. But if I can just
Yeah.
focus on what would thrill the heart of God in how I love my spouse right now, it has me with different options in front of me.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. Adele, I think part of it is realizing that when a person would sin against you, let's just take a bully on the playground. It has nothing to do with marriage and something as sacred as sex. It's just a bully on the playground. I think that person's the most wounded person on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
bully is the most wounded. And so when a spouse would hurt you, maybe repeatedly, and fail to see the bigger picture, there's still going to have to be some self-care. There's going to have to be some boundaries. But in terms of how can I regard my spouse and how might it please the Lord, I think compassion. We have a mix of emotion. We've got that expression. So I can hold emotion and I can hold the wisdom of having boundaries in the same conversation with myself. I don't have to give up one or the other. It can be both. I can hold the hope that this is going to be a better marriage one day. I can hold, the desire that my spouse will maybe get into coaching or therapy and find their way through whatever their issues are. All of these are a mix of emotion, but it's that anticipatory anxiety that often really stumps us up. I'm anticipating in the future this is just not going to work. But is it working right now? I'm afraid he or she's going to be unfaithful 5 years from now. What about the last 5 days? What have you experienced now as opposed to what may or may not happen in the future? Getting stuck in the future leads us to anxiety. Staying stuck in the past leads to depression.
And
Is
that's where
staying
the enemy
grounded where we
lives.
have our hope.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
where the enemy is in the future or the past, not in
I
the
think
present
that's right.
moment.
Yeah.
That's good.
So staying present is a huge, huge part of this. And we hear some of that staying present, be in the moment stuff from the New Age kind of crowd. But meditation, there's a place for filling our minds in Christ. We're not trying to empty our minds like some will do with a New Age meditation. We're trying to fill our mind with Christ. And I think this is a type of praying without ceasing. I think it equips you for all that you have to go through any moment of the day. It's a friendship. It's not fire insurance, it's a friendship.
Amen.
Wow. Thank you, Rob, for all that wisdom and sharing that with each one of our listeners today.
Thank you for joining us on this journey in season 5 for Supernatural Oneness. God's design for sexual intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have His perspective.
Yeah, and how you can pursue supernatural oneness, because I mean, this is our 6th episode, and we're not even close to being done talking about God's design for sexual intimacy. There's so much involved. And so thank you for joining us for this episode. And we want to invite you to continue to join us for future episodes. We are on a mission to get this message worldwide. People need to know about God's design for sex and marriage. It is so important because the enemy has destroyed it so much. So we could use your help. A couple ways that you could do that is leave us a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. 5 stars, preferably, and tell us what you're getting from these episodes. How are they helping you heal in your marriage? And then as well on YouTube, you can subscribe, like, and share. Please share these episodes with more people. If you know a couple and you care about them in your life, send them this episode. People need to know these messages that are on our heart and how God wants to rewrite and reframe back to His design for sex and marriage.
And I would love for you to comment as we went through today. I'd love for you to comment, what was your view about sex and sexuality? Put on there worldview or God's view. We'd love to know what yours was.
Mm-hmm. Or what was an insight you got about sexual activity versus sexual intimacy?
Yeah. And to continue your healing, we have curated a special video just for you, and it is right here.
4 ways to honor your spouse. And I guarantee you'll get more love making if you do this.
Oh, boom, boom, right there. I just
boom,
said boom, boom. The end of that.
Boom, boom.
Not the best closing. It's embarrassing.
Oh, no. Goodbye.
Goodbye.